Welcome back to Cleveland Sports Realm, and a happy new year to everybody.
Oh my God.
And here we go. So happy 2025 to everybody. We hope you had a great holiday season, whatever holiday you may celebrate, Christmas, Hanukkah, any of those. We hope you had a wonderful holiday season with your friends and family. And it's back to the originals here. How about it? Just myself, Kevin, and producer Derek.
Yeah.
So we're back to the original gang here, and for our first episode of 2025, got a special 2024 recap for you, and gonna get into a few other things, Kevin. So good to be back with you.
Yeah, good to be back with you too, buddy. How did Santa treat you?
Oh, Santa was good to me.
Good.
Santa was good to me. How about
Good.
yourself?
He treated me very nice, very nice. I got a couple, got a Keurig, Donovan Mitchell jersey. You know, Santa came down, and I must have made the nice list. So
Yeah,
I
you
was
did
happy
all right
with
this
it.
year.
Yeah,
I mean, good thing I'm not Santa. I wouldn't have put you on that list. But
well, that's okay. That's
Yeah.
all right, I guess.
how about you
Good
over
thing
there,
you're not
Derek?
Santa.
You have a good Christmas?
Yeah, I had a great Christmas.
Good. All right. Well, we
Just
went.
screaming.
Make
from
sure-
behind the-
Make sure the man behind the scenes who puts this all together for us was rewarded too from Santa Claus, and glad to see he was. All right, anyway, let's get into our first episode of 2025 and why we're here to talk a little sports, Kevin. So what would you like to start with?
Yeah, so I think we would be remiss to not talk about the Tribe, especially because last week we obviously had Phil on and he was a great host, but we didn't actually get to the Josh Naylor trade and Carlos Santana coming back. So probably before we actually get into the special part of the New Year episode, I think we should probably start with that. I was disappointed to see Naylor go. I think it's going to be tough to replace. You and I have talked about where you're going to get 250 plus 30 plus home runs from, and clearly this team's high on Kyle Manzardo, and we need to see him step up in 2025.
Yeah, I agree with some of the stuff you said there. Real quick, though, I know some of you are probably curious to see what we thought about the college football playoff. Go back to last episode. We covered it extremely extensively. We recapped all the first round games, previewed all the quarterfinal matchups, and then next week we'll get back into that. But no college football today because we are recording here on New Year's Day, and then we still have 3 games to go today. So we'll just lump the Penn State one into next week.
Yeah, that's
Penn
fine
State,
with me.
Boise State. So
Fine with me.
yeah, real quick to the listeners though, if you are curious about college football, we dove deep into that last week. I think we spent 40 plus minutes on it.
Yeah,
So
we had a good segment, and Phil was a good college football mind. I don't think he gives himself enough credit. He did a good job.
he did a
last
nice
week.
job. Phil did a nice job. Yeah, we brought the clown in from Boston, and he delivered for us. He did a real nice job. So anyway, back to this week's episode, to Guardians talk, like you said. So it's weird because everything they do is usually a money move, but this wasn't necessarily a money move because it was the same amount of money Naylor probably would have reached in arbitration. They turned around and gave Carlos Santana. And as someone who is probably one of Carlos Santana's biggest fans, I thought it's weird because his first tenure here, I didn't think people appreciated him nearly enough. He's an on-base machine. He does provide pop in the middle of the order. But the thing for me that was a little bit weird is this team's usually obsessed with younger and cheaper, and they went older and same price this time around because Naylor was probably due about $12.5 million in arbitration. They gave Santana $12 million with incentives to get that contract up to $14 million, Kevin. And the interesting thing to me is I don't know if it's a philosophy, if they value the on-base percentage of Carlos Santana, because we know since he made his debut back in 2010, no matter where the average has been, and it's been all over the place. He's hit his high. He's had a 290 season all the way down to, I believe, in 2022, he had a 192 average for the whole season. So he can hit anywhere average-wise, but the on-base ability since he made his debut in June of 2010 for the then Cleveland Indians, the on-base percentage has always been there. And I love Carlos personally. When I was growing up, he was absolutely my favorite player. And as crazy as some people think this is, he's my favorite player of all time. I was too young to remember the 90s teams, and I know a lot of people have a big-time emotional and nostalgic attachment to those teams. But when I was growing up, Carlos Santana always was hitting cleanup. I loved him. I think the other thing that at least they'll get, Josh Naylor is a big-time clubhouse leader, and Santana, no matter where he's been, any of the 7 teams he's been to, he's been known as a wonderful clubhouse guy. And one other thing about this move, I think it does pacify at least a little bit Jose Ramirez. They are super tight, and you got to kind of try to keep that guy happy a little bit too. But like I said, the power is not going to be the same. I don't see Carlos at this stage of his career, his birthday's April 8th, so for the bulk of the season, he'll be 39 years old. I don't see him hitting more than 25 home runs at absolute max. So you are losing some power, but the one thing that you'll have in the middle of that lineup, especially in the playoffs we watched, Josh Naylor was swinging at everything. I mean, it got to a point of disgusting to watch how much of a free swinger he was. And we know Santana is not going to be like that. He's going to work the count. He still will. The power still will be there. Not as good as Naylor, like I just said.
Right.
But I think what this shows you is they, as an organization, clearly must value on-base percentage extremely highly.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have to say before I get to kind of the analysis behind it, you must be, maybe the biggest Carlos Santana fan I know. I mean, you just pulled his birthday out of thin air just now.
Oh, yeah. I know his birthday.
The birthday, April 8th. Just move right on to the next point.
The debut, June 17th, 2010.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Against the Washington Nationals. No.
I know you're a Santana super fan.
I am a Santana super fan. And one weird thing about this I just want to point out is it's kind of interesting. So reading the story in The Athletic, and Ken Rosenthal did a great job breaking this whole thing down. So Carlos Santana the first time he left here, he never sold his house. He had, at the time, and for 2000, I believe that was 18, he had actually rented it out to Edwin Encarnacion. And then in 2019, he came back and he was traded it ended up being from the Phillies to the Mariners back to the then Indians that offseason. And Edwin Encarnacion went the other way. So Carlos Santana, no problem, moved right back into the house that he had. Well, he was here 2019 and 2020. Well, then 21 he left. He had never sold his house. So this offseason, he's finally probably should sell that house in Cleveland. And it's in Bracknell. And it's probably about time to sell that house. I don't think at this point I'm going to go back there, And he also has a home in Tampa. And so he's with his agent. And Friday night, the closing papers go through on the house. He finally sells his house. Well, Saturday morning he gets a call from the Guardians. Time to come back for a third time. So the poor guy sells his house that he had left for the last 4 years when he hasn't been here, and then he ends up coming back. Just funny how that thing works out,
Yeah, it is fun, and that's obviously love to have Santana back, like you were saying. Great clubhouse guy, and he's just somebody that I think fits in with the culture of this team. To your point of, how they look for the clubhouse leaders. That's a huge reason why Austin Hedges is back year in and year out.
Yes.
So now you're getting somebody in Santana, clubhouse leader, you can actually put into the lineup. And what I love about him, and I know I give you some crap about, your love for Santana and how he might be a little bit overrated in the city. I've said he is when it comes to putting him in the lineup, he's a very versatile player and where you can put him. I think we've seen him bat anywhere from 1 through 6 in this lineup in his stints in Cleveland. And, going back to that stacked team of 2017, we put him all the way down to 6. The year prior, he was in the World Series batting leadoff for us. And he's obviously not a threat on the base paths, but it's just he gets on base. I think you put him, with him being a switch hitter, if you're obsessed with we got to go lefty, righty in the order, you can put him anywhere in the order still. He's very, very versatile when it comes to that. And I think he's somebody that you put into this lineup, maybe put him at the 2 spot with how much Kwan gets on. You get 2 people on base for Jose Ramirez coming up, and you can strike early in just about any game. So I'm really looking forward to that aspect of the addition of Santana back to this team.
I agree, and I think the 2 spot's probably the most opportunistic spot to put him in nowadays.
I agree.
I just don't think the power's there enough to hit him clean up.
Right.
Now, one other thing I want to point out about Naylor, and he had 1 year left on the deal. At this point, we all know how this goes. They're cheap. They don't believe in long-term contracts. We know that, being fans of them.
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes with them. But this one was interesting because I don't think, and I had said this back when we had talked about this several podcasts ago, and I think you kind of agreed. We both had discussed Josh Naylor and his agent have a whole different perception of what Josh Naylor, I think, thinks his market's going to be than what the rest of the league thinks it's going to be. And overall, we've seen just a total devalue of the first base position. Look at a guy like Pete Alonso, and I get it, he's coming off a down year. I mean, he's still a free agent right now, and I think Alonso thought he was going to get some type of big long-term deal, and it's just not happening. You look at...
I would have guessed he would have.
Yeah, exactly. And,
Yeah.
and I just think that overall, you're seeing kind of a devalue of the first base position, which I don't really understand. I mean, it's not as drastic as running back in the NFL per se, but it just seems that that position has been devalued by the Major League Baseball a little bit.
Well, yeah, and it's clearly one of those positions now. I mean, we've seen Bryce Harper make the transition to first base that, when you start declining and they don't want to put you at DH, or they already have that position settled, like, all right, let's see if we can just put him at first.
Right,
and hopefully he
right.
can pick a ball out of the dirt occasionally. So, yeah, I think you're right on that. And hopefully, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, continue.
No, I was just going to say, I hope when it comes to the first base, obviously Carlos Santana, known for being a tremendous defensive first baseman as well.
Right.
And like we've talked about on the previous podcast episodes that we've had, I think Josh Naylor was a very underrated defensive first baseman. So I don't think it's that drastic of an increase when it comes to the defense. But like you said, just putting him anywhere in the lineup 1 through 6, love it. And I'm hopefully we can get Kyle Manzardo out at first base and see what he can do. It does worry me that last year, whenever he played, I think we only saw him play first once, maybe twice throughout the entire season. The rest he was just DHing. So clearly the organization's not confident in his defensive ability, or I think we would have seen most of that 2017 Edwin Encarnacion, Carlos Santana. It seemed like they almost went every other day with each other at first base. So hopefully Manzardo's defense gets better, and Carlos Santana.
Yeah,
I'm happy to have him back.
I think from what you see here, they clearly don't think Manzardo's a good first baseman. Clearly. I mean, and I've actually read a couple things this year that they totally project him as a long-term DH. So I mean, the problem is he's not going to get any better at it if you don't put him there.
Yeah.
At least maybe once a week on a Sunday, give him the Sunday start out there.
Yeah.
Because, and clearly, if they're not confident in his first base abilities, I'd like to see how truly bad at first base. I mean, is this guy just make errors left and right?
Right.
What possibly? Because, but the thing is, like you said, I mean, they clearly, even with this signing, they don't have any plans of putting Kyle at first base maybe more than once a week, and even if that, because Santana, which I feel like as his career has progressed, he has gotten better and better and better defensively at first base, to the point he won a Gold Glove in an age 38 year last year. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is crazy, but complete other end of the spectrum here with Manzardo. He has, for some reason, I feel like we haven't heard, nationally or even locally, whenever you tune into any of the radio stations, whenever you read articles, I feel like we don't hear. I feel like we don't hear this enough. But I rarely see a bad at bat from Kyle Manzardo. Like, he fouls off pitches, he goes deep into at bats. Sure, he might get out, but he has a tremendous approach at the plate. And I think between him, Santana, Kwan, and Ramirez, 4 out of your first 5 batters most likely having amazing approaches at the plate. I think we're gonna be able to take pitchers out within the first 4 or 5 innings a lot this upcoming season.
Well, there is a serious element to patience, and I'll agree with you.
Yeah.
When Manzardo came back up, the first time he came up, you could clearly see everything was happening too fast. And that
He was
happened,
pressing.
Exactly, and that's nothing against him. That happens to a lot of major league players that they got to go back down, find themselves.
Sure.
They come back up that second time. Because when
You
Kyle...
saw that with Jimenez.
Yes, absolutely. But when Kyle came back up that second time, it really connected for him. To the point, he ended up having a couple big hits in the playoffs, and I vividly remember one home run against the Yankees and that.
Huge.
But it took him that second time, and you got to hope he builds off that. Now, looking at this from the overall point of view, Kevin, I really, my gut tells me with their cheap selves, they're done. That's it. They're not going to, this is it. But looking at it from a perspective of what they actually need to do coming off an ALCS, this can't be it. Your big offseason move cannot be bringing back a 38 going on 39-year-old first baseman. Like that can't be it.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think they are done. I think it's easy for us to get roped into, oh, they don't spend. We're so used to them not spending or getting rid of good players like we've seen with just we looked at Jimenez and Naylor as basically foundations of this team 2 years ago that we didn't think would be leaving in the next 5+ years. So I don't think they're done. And we saw reports, and I forget who it was, so sorry that I can't credit it immediately, but we saw that they were in on Gleyber Torres. They were in on Paul Goldschmidt. Now, I doubt the offers were what they got. I'm sure they just kind of put feelers out there, but at least it's good to see that they're actually participating. And I'm never for the participation trophies. I'm not, but it's just nice to see when we're used to this team not spending, them actually, the Guardians, they just missed out. It sucks to see those reports, but at least we know that they're trying to be active in this free agency cycle. It looked like they were selling, to your point, after winning a game in the ALCS. It looked like they were selling. It looks like they're just doing the typical Indian/Guardian stuff of, hey, we're going to try to be competitive in the short term and also build for the long term. That's always been their mentality.
Right.
And it's always kept them competitive. Now, the problem with that is, where's the championship?
Exactly. And that's what drives me nuts. Eventually, stop threading the damn needle. Go all in 1 year.
Yeah.
And we have not seen them go all in 8-9 years. The last time they went all in was
2017.
Yes.
That was the last year because they did spend the money and they got Edwin Encarnacion, and which it stinks to see Teoscar Hernandez basically sign for that same contract, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was somebody I was hoping they'd be in on, but you know them.
But yeah, exactly. So went out, got Edwin Encarnacion, huge addition, especially from a team that the prior year they had beaten in the ALDS or ALCS, ALCS, and then obviously at the deadline went out and got Jay Bruce. And I don't think we'll see another stacked Indians team or Guardians team like that in our lifetime, because we had basically former All-Stars 1 through 7.
Yeah,
in that lineup. It was ridiculous.
Agree. But that's what drives me nuts, like the threading the needle stuff. It's really aggravating. And how long I don't know. Like they play such a fine line, and it's super frustrating. Like I don't understand how they can just keep threading. Like at some point or another, you made an ALCS. Stop threading the needle. Spend a little money and go all in. Like I know, obviously, going back like a couple of podcasts, we disagree on it. You were more upset with the Jimenez move than I was. But the good thing that come out of that is you got a pitcher in Luis Ortiz who absolutely can be, probably is going to have to be your number 2 or 3 at this point.
Actually, I don't think we even acknowledged when we recorded that a few weeks ago, because we had recorded that before the second trade. So we talked about Spencer Horwitz the entire episode, and we didn't even get to that. I like the trade more, the Jimenez trade more now than I did at the time.
Yeah, that night you were very upset.
Well, we recorded that within an hour of hearing the news.
Yeah, we did.
And I was, we don't need to rehash it or sound like a broken record, but I'm very known to be an Andres Jimenez apologist, but yeah. So that trade I liked. Now the Naylor trade I absolutely despise, because the pitcher that you got has a 6.7 ERA last year. I would have rather just had one more year in Naylor. I mean, you can get any of those 6.7 ERA guys. They're probably in Akron with a rubber duck uniform on right now.
Well, the thing that they all and the one thing I'll respect them is, I'm very critical of them, but the one thing I'll give them credit is they think, and they've done it, and they have a serious track record of doing it. They believe if a pitcher has a certain profile, throws hard, and just controls the issue, they believe in their minds, and they've shown to be able to truly do it. If they can get that guy to throw strikes and control his fastball, they believe that they can turn anybody into like the way
they're big into untapped potential is basically what they're into,
which is fine because they do have an ability to do it. Here's 2 things I'll go back on the Naylor trade. I think Josh Naylor's awful postseason I guess awful's a strong word because he did hit 240, but it didn't hit any home runs and really didn't drive in that many runs.
Yeah.
His, let's call it lackluster for a better term. His lackluster postseason drained his trade value. It was the elephant in the room. His excessive weight drained his trade value.
Well, the swings and misses were they were
hideous.
Uncanny. Any pitcher that was thrown in the dirt was guaranteed to strike this guy out.
Yeah, it was horrible. And so I think those two things combined, bad postseason plus, like I said, address the elephant in the room. I mean, he clearly had gotten fatter. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. He had gotten fat. And I think long term, they thought, well, if we can get something for him, let's see what we can get for him. And clearly, I mean, you read what the insiders say. Ken Rosenthal, specifically from The Athletic, I read a piece where he said that the bottom line is where they thought the value was just wasn't there. Teams were not interested in a overweight, free swinging first baseman. And I guess that's putting it bluntly, but that's what he's turned into. And now what's interesting about that is I was just very critical of him. I think Josh Naylor is actually, Arizona's a really good place for him to play. The ball flies there.
Yeah, I agree.
But he's going to have to learn on patience this offseason. I mean, Arizona has a little bit of a project on their hands with teaching him patience. And the other thing about Josh is I think that their concern was even though he's only 26 years old, they were worried about long-term. How is his body going to age? Because he is so overweight.
Yeah, clearly.
And is he, you brought up he plays good defense. Fair. I agree with that. But is he still going to be able to play that good defense long term?
Well, that's clearly the worry there too. And and obviously if the Tribe could have gotten more for him, they would have. That's why I can't stand all these, we could have got more for him. We could have clearly not. They obviously were shopping him around. It was like the MLB's worst kept secret was that we were trading Josh Naylor this offseason.
And that's the thing you just had said you were upset with the return, and I think a lot of folks were. But then I think you take basically a come to Jesus moment where, wow, okay, maybe we did overrate him around here, and his value clearly industry wide was extremely low.
Yeah, it was clearly around the MLB they were worried about to what you were just saying literally probably a minute, maybe 2 minutes ago is how much longer is he going to be able to produce at this level, because of the weight issue. Obviously he's a good defensive first baseman. You said he's 26 years old?
I believe he's
26, 27.
Yeah, let me double
and
check
hit
that.
30 home runs and a 250 average. This is somebody who across the MLB from the outside looking in, if you weren't looking at the player itself but just the statistics, you'd be thinking, okay, he's probably the fifth hitter on a competing team, maybe a four hitter on our team, which he was obviously.
Okay, I lied. He's 27. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, no, that's fine. We were a year off. Outside looking in, he would look like a player that in the middle of his prime, entering his prime, we can bat him 4 through 6, and he should be a pretty good addition long term. And clearly, that's not the outlook across the MLB.
No, not at all. Not at all. GMs and talent evaluators clearly didn't think what Cleveland fans did.
Right.
Okay, so moving forward, we talked about how I being having some skepticism towards them, and I think it's fairly deserved because of what they've given us the last handful of off seasons. I still think in order to get to where they got last year, you need at least one more starting pitcher, and you need at least one more middle of the order type impact bat. And I just have no faith they're going to do either of those two things. And if they don't, I'm going to be skeptical.
Yeah, because just thinking about it, it's hard to speculate trades because obviously there are rumors about who could be and who could not be on the move. And then there's the shocking trades that randomly happen, like, oh, I didn't know this guy was available for trade. So it's very hard to speculate if the Tribe were to make a move, who they would go after. Now, if I'm the Tribe, I am going to start speculating trades, and the first team I'm going to look at is the Los Angeles Angels. I'm going to look at a Taylor Ward. I'm going to see what it's going to take to get Luis Rengifo. Now, based off of what he did last season, I think he would be very hard to acquire. But Taylor Ward's a dude that you can plug almost like a David Fry. Any corner outfield position, plug him in. I believe he can play third. I'm I forget if he can
I
play
know he
third or
plays
not.
first.
I know he can play first.
Yes.
So he's a guy, if you want to, and what do we need? Some right-handed bats as well. I think Taylor Ward would be an amazing addition to this team. Plug him in at right field. Plug him in, like we were just saying, between 4 through 6. That's the first guy I would be looking at.
I agree. I don't know if at this point the Angels just won't trade him, though, because I feel like industry-wide, we've been hearing Taylor Ward's name in trade rumors for 24 to 30, the last 36 months.
Yeah, and if I'm the Angels, I'm trying to think of if I was the Angels organization, like who would be and who would not be available for trade. He'd be the first person. Because if you couldn't compete for a championship with Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani on the same team, what makes you think you're going to be able to do it right now?
Right.
Go get some prospects. And what team has more prospects than the Cleveland Indians right now?
Well, we have plenty of middle infielders, and
Exactly.
stuff like that. But the one thing we're down, which is just weird because it was not even thought of for so many years. Organizationally, our pitching depth is as worse as it's been in the last decade.
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
true.
good right now. I mean, that's the other thing why I think, to your point, yes, a Taylor Ward would be great here, but I look at this rotation and I say, okay, my only surefire thing is Tanner Bybee, because Ben Lively, the chances of him repeating how great he was last year are slim to none. Gavin Williams was quite frankly useless when he came back last year.
Well, so I am excited about Luis Ortiz, though.
Luis Ortiz, like
I'm
we
very
just
excited
said,
about him.
he pitched very well last year. He's controllable. He's cheap, one of their favorite things, more importantly. And he's got a lot of talent. Fastball plays, absolutely. There's a lot of life to it. 97, 98, and he can throw it consistently for strikes. And their thing was, I think their thing is, he was a little wild here and there in Pittsburgh, but they think that he can throw that fastball for strikes, and his breaking ball is nasty too. But all that being said, Tanner Bybee and Luis Ortiz is not enough. Like, everything else is a big question mark. Like, Logan Allen was pretty awful last year. Gavin Williams was pretty awful last year.
Yeah.
Ben Lively was great. Again, I'm skeptical if he can do that. The guy was garbage his entire career until last year. Had one great year, so rightly so, you think he's going to regress at least to the mean a little bit. And then Tristan McKenzie, who the hell knows what you're getting with him?
I was just going to ask what your thoughts were on McKenzie.
I mean, and then obviously we know we have Shane, but that's not till probably mid-July at the absolute earliest. So they absolutely need another pitcher. But I think what's killing them, specifically ownership, is probably just scoffing at the idea of it. Alex Cobb pitched 16 innings and got $15 million last year. The starting pitching market is gone bonkers.
I think we're going to see some Espino this year.
Well, he's coming off an injury.
Is he?
Oh my God! Yeah, he had another surgery last year. So
I can't even keep up with it.
That guy has so many injuries. So I mean, the chances of him ever being good now are slim to none.
That's a good point.
He's had major reconstructive arm and shoulder surgery, so they need absolutely another starting pitcher. And one guy that I'd be highly interested in is Eric Fetty from St. Louis, because he pitched really well last year. He's pretty cheap. He's only, I believe, $7-8 million this year he's due. That's nothing for starting pitching.
Yeah.
So do what you can to try to go do that, because it's going to have to come through a trade, because you're not going to...
Oh, the market's ridiculous
like
for starting
we just
pitching.
said. Yeah. And we know that ownership will not simply just not allow that kind of thing to happen.
That's the one thing, though, about the Indians, is that I am always confident in what the pitching is going to be. So I know you're a little bit worried about it. I'm just not. I know, like, when you look at it depth-wise, it's not there right now.
Right.
There's been no organization that I've been more confident in developing any position than I am with the Tribe and pitching. So
I agree.
It's just an area that, even though it is concerning, outside looking in, the names aren't really there, or, the
talent.
the reputation of these players isn't there. I'm confident in it, because they figure it out every year with that. I'm more concerned with what we were just talking about earlier. Who are we going to put 4 through 6? Who's going to be our opening day second baseman? That's still a question for me. So
my guess would be Juan Brito.
That would be my guess,
I think
too.
they're going to give him every chance possible to win the job in spring training.
I agree. I
So-
think they are as well. It's just, I'm more concerned with who's going to be our other corner outfielder and who's going to be second base, because I just trust this organization to find the pitching when they need to.
Yeah, I could see your point going off that history. Like I said, I'm skeptical just because I just simply you can't ever have enough arms, and they're like I said, they're operating at a deficit for years. It was like, I mean, for literally the last decade, it was okay. So and so's going on the injured list. Just bring so and so up, they'll be fine. Insert any of these names or players of the last 10 years, but it's not there right now. So I think, and I get it. Looking from your point of view, looking at it from history, yeah, sure, they've done a hell of a job with it, and they deserve some credit for that.
And before this past year, like, who were Tim Herron and who was Cade Smith?
Right. Fair enough. But I just look at it right now and I say, well, boy, they're operating for more of a deficit than they ever have. So that's that. Nice little off-season breakdown for the Cleveland Guardians, and we'll keep our eyes hopefully and ears open and hopefully get some better good news, because like we both agree, we look at it a little bit differently, which is fine, but we both agree a 38 going on 39-year-old first baseman can't be it.
Can't be the highlight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, real quick, I wanted to honestly, I don't really feel the need to really go deep into the Browns game last week.
Yeah, we'll do a whole season recap, I think, next week.
Yeah, we can do that. I really don't feel the need, and obviously we'll see what happens in the off season. But one thing that I think people aren't maybe paying enough attention to, and I wanted to get into a little bit today and not spend too much time on it, but just I think it's worth noting. The battle between the Cleveland Browns and the city of Cleveland is getting very intense. And I honestly, as much criticism as you can give to the Haslams, I feel the need to defend the Haslams here. They're trying to go about this honestly. And I think I'm going to use the word extorting, because I think that's what the city of Cleveland's doing. They're trying to extort unnecessary money out of Jimmy and D. And right now, you wonder, I mean, the lease is up in 28. The new stadium would have to be built by 29. As of today, it's 2025. Like, this thing needs to get moving, and it's kind of, for all intents and purposes, it's like at a huge roadblock right now. So just to give everybody a little bit of update here on what's happening, if folks haven't seen or heard it. So the Browns have absolutely moved forward with their plans to build the dome in Brook Park. Well, the city of Cleveland has been very much against that since basically the Browns said they, we're going to try to leave to go to Brook Park. Well, the city of Cleveland has come back and said, they're trying to enact the Art Modell law, which is that you can't move a team outside of the city of Cleveland, or actually, whole statewide. You're not allowed to move a team, and which
was clearly made to not take the team away from Northeast Ohio.
Right, exactly.
Which is clearly what it was made for, so, not to move 20 minutes down the road.
Right, and if you want to get technical,
yeah.
And Daryl Ryder from 92.3 brought this up. If you want to get technical, the airport is technically in the city of Cleveland, so they're literally going in Brook Park, right by the airport. They are going across the street from the city of Cleveland by technical means.
Yeah.
So now the Browns sued the city over the fact that the Modell law is written too vague, and now the city wants more money from the Browns. And what I think this is, I don't think the city actually really cares if the Browns are there or not. I think the city's just trying to extort as much money out of the Haslams as possible. And I think the city's going about it the wrong way. The Browns have been good stewards. They've worked with you. They've been, and for now all of a sudden when that stadium gets destroyed, that is the city of Cleveland's building. The Browns leased that from them. I think the city's just trying their best because they've already said, well, we want you to help knock it down. We want you to give us money for game day costs, and all the local business we're losing down there. The Browns agreed to do that. It's like every step of the way, the Browns have agreed to these things that contractually they have no obligation to agree to, and they're doing them, and the city's still trying to just screw them over. I don't get it.
And it's just about the only thing the Browns have done right in 25 years.
Right, right.
It's do right by the city.
Yeah, honest to God, the Haslams, and we could sit here, God, we could go for 2 hours about everything Jimmy and Dee have done wrong since they bought this team. But they have faithfully and honestly done everything every step of the way here. And what I worry about is, now the mayor, to finish up the whole recap of it, if the letter that came out this week, the Browns have until January 9th to respond to, and the mayor's basically threatening to sue the Browns for leaving the city of Cleveland, and then also saying that Jimmy and Dee have to sell the team within 6 months if they move it out of downtown Cleveland. Here's my whole point of view on that. If the city of Cleveland, and led by Mayor Justin Bibb, really think that the Browns are trying to screw them over, the Browns are actually probably trying to help you, because if you stay at that current stadium, it's already falling apart. I mean, not drastically, but it's aging. It's an aging facility, and they're trying to help you. Do you know what the maintenance costs of that place are going to be? And that would fall on the city of Cleveland. So I don't understand why. I don't really get what Cleveland's ploy is here. I don't get what they're trying to angle at. The only thing, and that's why my conclusion is, Kevin, the only thing I can come up with is they're just trying to milk every last dollar out of Jimmy and Dee they can.
Yeah, probably. And I'll be honest, when it comes to outside of the on-the-field play for the Browns, I've actually tried not to pay attention to this whole stadium thing, because I just feel like it's useless banter that's going on. So I've just tried to stay away from. So a lot of what you're saying is kind of news to me. So I'm learning a lot just by you talking about it.
Right.
And it's just typical Brown stuff, man. Like there's just drama constantly with this team. Like it doesn't matter whether it's on the field, off the field, the higher ups, the city's now involved with. And I think it was Mayor Bibb or somebody in the Cleveland City District was basically like, you know what, if you want to move, you got to put a good team out on the field. Which basically contradict. You don't want a good team in Cleveland?
Yeah.
Well, that's basically what he said.
Right. And
I don't know.
Like the whole thing is, and to your point, the Browns can't get out of their own way. We know that for a quarter century now, for the most part.
It's been tough.
They can't get out of their own way. But to me, you're right. Nationally, and from the naked eye, the 10,000 feet in the air view, people are going to look at this and say the Browns can't get out of their own way. But my thing is, I actually think this is a fair time to defend the Browns. The Browns are literally trying to do everything right. And oh, by the way, people are going to say, the people who are hard against the dome are going to say, oh, well, that's just Jimmy's ploy to make more money because he's going to own all the parking out there and he's going to own all the facilities around it.
Which is definitely part of it a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. It's part of it. But what the city is too stupid to realize is, hey, you have a brand new dome. Guess what? Jimmy can give you a Final Four. Jimmy can give you a maybe I'm getting crazy, maybe a Super Bowl. Right.
The Taylor Swift concerts,
yes,
whatever.
Those kind of things. And those are massive revenue boosters for the city, too, because people are going to come here. Well, boy, they need a hotel, they need a rental car, they need a place to park, all that.
But wouldn't that be technically Brook Park's money and not Cleveland at that point? Isn't that where the argument and the holdup is?
Yeah, but my thing is, too, if people are coming, look, by the Browns going to Brook Park, they're following the modern trend. You look at a lot of these NFL stadiums that have been built, let's say the last 10 to 20 years, they are not in the downtown area.
Oh, dude, and I know it's not the Boston Patriots, but when we helped Phil move in a few years ago, we had to drive an hour to get to the stadium from Boston.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
But a lot of these, and that's a great point, Foxborough is nowhere near downtown Boston. So a lot of these folks who are naysayers on this, and you're right, that would be Brook Park's money. But you think if someone's going to come out of town for a Final Four, what the hell's it do in Brook Park? They're going to go downtown Cleveland still. They're going to go to the Rock Hall. They're going to do those type of things. They're going to go, down and, see downtown too and all that. So that's my point of view. I still think the money's there for this. Obviously, I get it.
Yeah, but they're building like an entire city in this development. It's
right.
Basically their goal. So I think the problem that the city has is that all of the revenue, yes, if it was just a stadium that was built in Brook Park and you're having these events, sure. a lot of revenue would be coming to downtown Cleveland, a lot. But if you're planning on having a bunch of bars, a whole casino there, if you're having all these things, what is the point of going to downtown?
Well, that's a fair point too. That's a fair point too. But the way I look at it too is, okay, the city of Cleveland's putting up such a fight, right? Like they are fighting the Browns tooth and nail on this, but not once have they provided a good alternative. And to me, the current answer of renovating the stadium that's down there right now is a horrendous idea. The place is 26 years old, and it's old. It's falling apart. The city has never, ever, our entire lives we've been hearing about how the city wants to develop the lakefront. They have never put anything down there besides the Science Center, the Rock Hall, and that stadium and the ports down there. There's nothing else down there on the lakefront side. So
taking down that stadium and having the Brook Park, obviously you have the opportunity now to develop the lakefront.
Sure.
So
but
yeah, to your point, if you're gonna fight the Haslams and fight the Browns tooth and nail, then give the alternative.
Yes, provide something.
That's a great point. You can't just be like, no.
Yeah, no.
Come up with an alternative and try to meet somewhere in the middle, which clearly it looks like that's far gone. It looks like there's no meeting in the middle anymore.
Well, my biggest thing is, and my biggest worry is, and I know this is probably getting way ahead of myself, but if you keep blocking Jimmy from doing everything, blocking him from building what he wants to build and his whole, like you said, his whole basically, let's call it mini city for all intents and purposes in Brook Park, and you don't let him do it, and the lease is up in 2028. In 2028, does Jimmy say, well, you screwed me over, I'm just going to take the Browns and move them again? Like, that's the worst thing that could possibly ever happen.
But I think at that point, that's when the Medell law would actually come into play.
Right. Right.
I still think it's hilarious that they're trying to they're moving 20 minutes down the road,
and they're enacting.
They're trying to enact the Medell law,
which also is written very, very vague. And I've tried to read it so that I've tried to educate myself on this issue. I was like you; I didn't pay attention for a long time to all this stuff. But before I came on the podcast, I thought it was important enough to talk about it, bring it up, and I said, well, I can't just go on there and go off hearsay. So I have been reading articles and trying to enlighten myself a little bit. So I came on here and sounded like I at least knew a little bit about what I was talking about. Not
you got the Wikipedia summary,
right? Well, no, I did more than that, But in all honesty, I thought this was an important enough issue that and now it's getting really, really ugly between the Browns and the city, and I just hope that there's some sort of resolution here. And I eventually first was all against the dome, the dome in Brook Park. But after really researching it and thinking about it, there's no other alternative, because anybody who says the alternative is to just put money, millions and billions of dollars into the current stadium, all you are doing is taking the world's biggest tube of lipstick and putting it on the world's biggest pig. That's all you're doing. Yeah. That place is falling apart. It's aging. It's time for a new facility. Yeah. No other way to put it. And the other thing that you're going here is that worries me is the current stadium. A lot of the reasons it has its problems is because it was a rush job. The NFL said, sure, have the Browns back. Better have a place for them to play by 1999. So it was lickety split. It was up in a hurry. Now, if you don't resolve this new issue with the Brook Park Dome, it's going to be another rush job, and you're going to be fighting the same battle in another 30 years.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I think we've covered that enough, but I did think I thought that was worthy enough, to bring up.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's definitely worth the conversation because it's our team and our city. We love them, and
we hate them too, but we love them.
Yeah, it's definitely a frenemy relationship. Yeah. So,
yeah. I mean, we love that team. I mean, what this city doesn't do for that team, well, not the city itself, the leaders, but the people.
Right.
The people of Cleveland love and cherish that team. And I think as bad as it is, and boy, is it bad right now.
It's ugly.
And like you said, there's no point. If we were going to spend time on the Browns today, to me, this was much more important than talking about Dorian Thompson-Robinson and his 3 intentional groundings on Sunday.
Yeah.
And what good are we getting out of that?
What you were saying earlier, with
what good is that?
Yeah. Top 3 pick for the Browns. They got the stadium battles, and they're putting lipstick on a pig across the whole. That's the most beautiful thing about this team is that they have a top 3 pick.
Right, absolutely.
Lipstick on a pig.
So next week we'll go back into and little preview for next week. We'll probably go back and maybe give our off-season recap, see what they do, and then obviously we'll have plenty to talk about with both of our teams playing later here today as we are recording on New Year's Day.
That's right, and we'll be able to actually solidify next week when we do our kind of season recap on the Browns. We'll be able to talk about the Browns pick will be solidified. It's going to fall anywhere between, depending on this, I doubt they beat the Ravens, so I'm assuming it's going to fall in the 1-3 range, but I think it would be at the latest like 6 or 7. So we'll have a solidified draft pick. We'll be able to kind of analyze right now because we know things always change before now and the end of April.
Right.
So
and is it the Browns haven't been drugged through enough mud this season? ESPN decided to make this last game a nationally televised game so the whole America can see how bad we are again.
And did I see correctly? They're like 18-point underdogs or something absolutely absurd.
They were,
like
but
that.
I know that was what they opened at. I think was 17.5. That has been going. I think it is going down, but as of now, they are 17.5-point dogs on the road, which is insane for an NFL spread.
That's ridiculous.
So,
well, did you want to? So obviously, we're gonna start probably the last segment. Did you want to get into our New Year's special?
Yeah. So our New Year's special. As much bad as there's been a few shining stars in Cleveland sports this year, and Kevin and I thought it would be appropriate here to each go through our top 10 moments in Cleveland sports. Lists are going to be a little bit different. That's okay. Yeah. And we'll just, I think we'll go through them maybe, and then.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, do you want to, like, you go 10-1, I go 10-1, or do you want to each reconvene? We'll start on 10, talk about where we have at 10.
Let's go with choice B. I like that.
Okay, you want to go with the ladder?
Yeah, we'll go with choice
All right.
B.
Okay.
So.
Can I start with 2 honorable mentions? Because I narrowed it down to 12.
Sure.
12 moments. I'll start with my honorable mentions.
I don't have any, so give them both.
Number 12, Naylor brothers homering in the same inning on National Siblings Day.
That was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. I thought that was a very cool moment. And then 11, I was surprised going through this that this didn't crack the top 10, but Stephen Kwan's Game 2 ALDS catch against the Tigers that kept us in it. I have that at 11.
That was a great grab.
Yeah.
Both good honorable mentions.
Thank you.
So I'll go with my number 10 here, and I don't know. It's not like a specific on-the-field moment, but I happened to be downtown for it, so I was a little biased. The solar eclipse on opening day, being downtown in the stadium for that was pretty freaking awesome. So that was my number 10.
Okay. Yeah, that actually did not crack. That did not crack mine, but that would have been a very cool moment. I saw the pictures of that, and it looked like it would be very cool.
Right.
I saw the Guardians players out there with the glasses with their families. Very cool.
Yes.
Very cool. And
very cool
I forget who they were playing that day.
White Sox.
The White Sox. And how to be a White Sox player. You happen to be in that place on that day for that game.
Yeah,
very cool to be a White Sox player there. My number 10 moment, Cleveland sports moment this year was ALDS Game 1, Cleveland Guardians, starting the game up 5-0 before there's even an out in their first playoff game of the year.
That was a hell of a way to start the playoffs. That's absolutely
Lane
good.
Thomas grand slam. Awesome.
Yes. Well, I think that was a 3-run homer. Or was that a grand slam too?
I thought it was a grand slam. I'm pretty sure it was.
No, grand slam was. We'll get there because that's on my list. But I think that was a 3. Maybe he hit 2 in that. I don't remember.
I don't know.
But that, nonetheless, going up 5-0, a great way to start the playoffs. Number 9 for me was just after, and we started this podcast right after this had happened, so we never really got a chance to talk about this, but Browns beat the Ravens the day after the news had come out that the legendary play-by-play voice of the Browns, Jimmy Donovan, had passed away. And I'm telling you, he intervened that day. He was looking out for the Browns. There's no way an all-pro safety like Kyle Hamilton drops that ball. Jimmy was out there looking out for the Browns that day. Thought that was a really cool moment and a good one of the few lone shining stars of a miserable season.
Yeah, that actually did not crack mine, but phenomenal moment. I was actually in attendance for that game. I know you were as well.
Right.
It was phenomenal to be in that atmosphere. You know, the tribute to Jim Donovan before the game. It was a phenomenal moment. Phenomenal moment. Jameis got it done. Great moment. So Coming in at 9 for me is Game 5, Round 1, Cavs Magic, Evan Mobley blocking Wagner at the rim.
Yeah, that
kept
pretty
us
cool.
that kept us in the series. I think we lose that game. We end up, obviously, we got smoked Game 6. I think we lose that game. We probably lose the series. It was a huge moment to propel us to Round 2 as well. Get the momentum going.
Absolutely. That didn't make my list, but I don't think it's something that necessarily shouldn't be on there. It just didn't make my list.
Yeah, there were more moments than I thought there were when I was going through.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been so negative all lately, but if you look at the basketball team, they've done a hell of a job.
Hell of a job.
And speaking of them, my number 8 was Max Struess's like 1,000-foot buzzer beater from at home against the Dallas Mavericks last February. I know usually you look at 82 regular season games, and you're like, how many moments can really be on there? That was a sweet moment, sweet shot, sweet win.
Yeah, it was awesome, and that actually comes in at the exact number for me as well. It's my number 8 moment of the year.
Wow.
Max Strus, however far it was, I just put 80-footer because I think that's how far it was, but phenomenal.
I put 1,000. Obviously, I knew it wasn't
Right.
1,000, but it was far away.
That was a very cool moment. I was actually at my mom's, and I just turned the game on with the last 3 minutes, and Cavs were down like 10. Came back, and then obviously the heartbreaker. It was the Mavericks. They get the layup with 2 seconds left, and it looks like all hope is lost. Donovan Mitchell on the sideline, our key guys on the sideline, and Strus got it done. That was a very cool moment. Number 8 for me as well.
Number 7. It's not really a moment, but it's kind of, I thought with it being New Year's Day, it was a good point to put it. Number 7 for me is this Cavs 29-5 start. I don't know if you can really call it a moment. I might have cheated there on the list a little bit, but I couldn't go making this list without just talking about how great this Cavs start's been and how awesome it's been.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I'll get there as well. I have that a little bit higher up on my list, so I'll end up getting there. But yeah, the Cavs starts have been the one shining moment in the last 2 months right now to be a Cleveland sports fan. So coming in at 7 for me, and in honor of number 7, it actually happened in Game 7 of the Cavs Magic series. Cavs come back. The Cavs' big comeback against the Magic. It looked like all hope was lost, and at halftime, Cavs come back in the second half. On to Round 2 against Boston.
Yep, they were down by
moment.
18 points behind Donovan Mitchell, 39 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. And I actually have that on my list too. That's why I have those numbers.
Okay.
But it just comes in a little higher for me. That was awesome.
A little bit of breaking news in this segment. Nothing really Cleveland sports related, but Bryce James has committed to Arizona.
Oh, not going to USC.
Random in the middle of the episode. Sorry to
that's
interrupt,
fine,
but
yeah.
Got that update.
Yeah. They say this one's better than the first LeBron kid.
I think he is.
I
from
think
what
he
I've
is
seen.
too,
Now
yeah.
I'm not gonna act like I've watched all of their games, but from what I've seen, it looks like he's a little bit more polished.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Did you do your number?
Number 7 was what we just ended on. Cavs comeback against the Magic.
Okay. Number 6 for me, off the season moment, but Donovan Mitchell signing the dotted line. Because this Cavs 29-5 start doesn't get there without it. There were so many worries that he wasn't going to do it. We're going to have to go into a rebuild. We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to do that. Well, obviously, all those prayers and hopes and worries got answered. They're 29-5. Donovan doesn't sign that dotted line. None of this is possible. Huge moment for me. I know it's not on the court. I still thought it was a big moment and made my top 10 list.
Yeah, it just gave us hope as a fan base that there are star players that if they're here, they would want to continue to be here. I think that's a great moment. I don't have it in my top 10. I think that's a great moment though to look back on because it did seem like that was the talk of at least Cleveland sports radio for like the entire week when that happened because there were talks about it as soon as he got traded here. It was almost like when we traded for Kevin Love back in 2014. It's when are we going to trade Kevin Love? When are we going to trade Donovan Mitchell because he's not going to re-sign here? So, yeah, very cool moment. Very good moment. Now, number 6 for me, ALCS Game 4, Andres Jimenez, Josh Naylor defense. To end the inning, it even though we lost the game, it kept us in the game, gave us hope to potentially put that to get another win. It kept us in the game. It was a great moment. It's That's my number 6 moment.
Okay, so that was game 4.
Game 4, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do remember that because we ended up obviously,
Dropped that game,
yeah. But
unfortunately.
yeah.
But it was great. Jimenez running left, the whole 180 or 360 turn, Naylor's stretch, his pick.
Or was that game 5?
Was that game 5? Game 4, game 5.
That you know what? That was game 4, I believe. You know what? I remember the play specifically. I can't remember what game it is. Oh
Okay.
well, that was
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
Number 5 for me, the Cavs come back in Game 7 against the Magic, down
Okay.
by 18. Obviously, I already pointed out Donovan leading the way with 39, 9, and 5. Greatness, just greatness from Mitchell. And then he ended up getting hurt, and we got gentlemen swept by Boston. So that was pretty much the high point of the Cavs postseason.
Yeah, that whole series for me, it felt like I was going to touch on it, when I brought up that moment, but I'll touch on it now since it's brought back up. That entire series, it felt like 2018 LeBron, did it not? Like Donovan
Yeah.
Mitchell, if he was not scoring 40 plus, it seemed like we had no chance. And he even dropped 50 in a game that we lost.
Yeah. Donovan
So,
was on his own in that
Yeah, Donovan
series.
was unbelievable in that series.
He was on his own, no
So,
question.
number 5 moment for me, ALCS Game 3, David Fry walk-off. Number 5
That's on
for
my
me.
list. It's a little bit higher, but it is on my list.
Number 5 for me. That one's pretty self-explanatory. I won't go into any details
Yeah.
there. Phenomenal moment. Top 5 moment of 2024.
Yep, absolutely. Number 4 for me, I cannot believe that as bad as they've been, they cracked the top 5. I think from having the personal experience of working it, it's why it snuck in there for me, being on the field for it. Browns snow game blizzard win against the Steelers. I mean, and it probably wouldn't have been that high had the Browns had a decent season, but it's been so
Yeah.
low. We both love the team so much. Against your arch rivals in the snow, Jameis Winston leading them to victory that night.
Yeah, that actually comes in at number 3. That comes in at number 3 for me. My number 4 moment is the Cavs starting the season 15-0.
Okay.
Cavs starting the season 15-0 was number 4. We didn't know when that streak was going to run out. Obviously, it ran out against Boston.
So we both kind of cheated a little bit. It's not really a moment, but we both put that in there.
Yeah.
Because it deserves to be in there. And quite frankly, we haven't had that many great moments in Cleveland sports this year, so it should be in there.
Yeah, and just outdoing. They've never got out to the start that they have this season ever with LeBron. So I think it's cool. I just
Yeah.
think it's cool that they've shown that they've built their own team. They've done it without him, and they're a powerhouse now. So that comes in at number 4, and then I'll lead off just because you touched on it. My number 3 moment, Browns snow globe game against the Steelers, getting that win. For it, like you just said, for as bad as that team has been, beating the Steelers in Cleveland in front of our fans, in front of a packed house at Huntington Bank Field.
In the
Phenomenal
snow.
moment in the snow.
Yeah, and
Number 3
that's
for
one of
me.
those games that folks will look back on in 20 years, like the NFL films clips of them. And Jameis even brought that up.
Absolutely.
Like, that is a game that will be in Browns lore for a while now because
Oh, yeah.
well, there's just not too many great moments to talk about.
Right.
Number 3 for me, a little bit higher than we have some of the same moments, just a little bit different places. Number 3 for me, David Fry walk-off against the Yankees.
Yeah.
We already talked on it. It was awesome. Just didn't see it happening. And the fact that they won that game, even though they got gentlemen swept. I'm glad if they only won one game, the way
It
they
was
did
that
it.
one.
The way they did it was sweet.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It was one of the coolest Indians wins, maybe the best Indians win of my lifetime. I'm trying to think because they were, yeah.
Number 2
Number 2.
for me, big Christmas, 2 out, 2-strike homer
Wow.
against the Yankees. I have that higher than the Fry one because there is no Fry without Big Christmas doing his thing. And honestly, I hate saying this, and he just got into the Hall of Fame. Congratulations to him. And it was one of the few times I thought that a national TV call was ever better. Actually, maybe the only time
Yeah.
in my life that the national TV call was better than Tom Hamilton's. And I hate saying that. It hurts me
No.
to say it. Brian Anderson with a hell of a call on that.
Brian Anderson's call was amazing. As soon as it left the bat,
Big
just so
Christmas
excited. Yeah, it was
with
awesome.
elite
Yeah,
stuff.
phenomenal. I get chills just thinking about it. I get yeah.
So is it number 2 for you too?
It's not number 2 for me. Number 2, ALDS Game 5, Lane Thomas Grand Slam.
Okay. Now I have that on my list, obviously, in the last spot that is on my list.
It looks like it's number one for you.
And the reason I put it at number one is my logic. I try to keep it the same. I try to stay consistent for my own mind and our listeners and you and everything else. There's no Fry without Big Christmas. There's no Big Christmas without Lane hitting that grand slam to get to the Yankees.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Lane Thomas, grand slam against the Tigers, against that pitcher.
Yes, who was unhittable the entire season.
Unhittable the entire series. Lane Thomas, two huge hits that are on this list. And I feel like he goes, not to bring it all the way back, obviously, to Tribe Talk, because we spent about 40 minutes on it.
Yeah.
But that's somebody who is kind of being overlooked right now, because I feel like nobody really brings him up. Hopefully he doesn't get traded. Hopefully he's our opening day center fielder.
I think that's why folks are worried. You never know.
Yeah. So you have that at one, obviously.
Yes.
The big
and
reveal.
I'll never forget it. It's one of those moments that it's like you just felt like, boy, somebody's got to break through against this guy. And I didn't feel confident going into that game at all, honestly, because we talked about it. Tarek was unbelievable, not just in that series, the entire season. He won the Cy Young. He was unhittable the second half of the year. The Tigers legitimately didn't have a starting pitcher in the rotation besides Tarek. And Lane with the grand. Oh, it was wonderful.
Amazing moment.
So your number one.
My number one, we have the same top two, but different order. My number one moment is Big Christmas's 2-run shot.
Okay.
Bottom of the ninth, 2 outs to tie the game.
Right.
Phenomenal.
So if you're going with just moments, sure. See, to me, the only reason I said is because
I understand the logic.
Yeah, no BC without Lane.
I understand the logic, but I'm talking just excitement in the moment. And not that I wasn't excited for these other moments, because obviously I was jumping. Right. I was going like
They're
crazy
in your top
for 'em.
10 moments. You're excited for all of them.
But 2 outs. Yeah, 2 outs, down by 2, to get that, to save basically the season at that point. That I haven't gone crazier, I don't think, the entire year. That was an unbelievable moment. We're going to be talking about that moment for years, decades.
Right.
Phenomenal.
Absolutely. So those are our top 10 moments in Cleveland sports. When you and we appreciate all the comments we've been getting on the episodes, but go ahead and comment.
Yeah, I would love to see your top 10 moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to see if it's a different order, if you have the same, or even if there's moments that for some reason we happen to overlook. I'd love to be like, oh my God, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah,
moment.
absolutely. And I know that we don't really mention them on the podcast, folks. We do read all the comments. We absolutely do.
Yeah.
Whether it's on Spotify or YouTube, we really appreciate you commenting. And we appreciate all our subscribers, and thank you. And I think going into the new year, this is a new thing for us, but we're very grateful and excited to see where this thing can take us to greener pastures in 2025.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see. Obviously, we've gotten the support. We appreciate all the support. We appreciate the engagement. We appreciate the traction that this has got as well. A little bit faster start than we were anticipating. So. Yeah, always comment, always engage. I know we probably haven't been the best at engaging back, specifically on Spotify. We do see all of the comments there. We could definitely be a little bit. Maybe that'll be my New Year's resolution.
Yeah, maybe we'll start commenting back.
We'll start commenting back. Make sure that you guys know that we are reading everything that you put out there, and we appreciate all the support that we've gotten over the last couple months of 2024 and hopefully into 2025.
Absolutely. So. That'll do it for this holiday special episode here. Where that was a lot of fun putting that list together. I enjoyed that.
It was.
And for Derek, for Kevin, and for myself, Happy New Year!
Go Cavs!